If you give a little more than you're asking for, your love will turn the key. Who loved Andy Gibb? Raise your hand. I loved Andy Gibb. So we're gonna talk Andy Gibb and remember the love we had for Andy Gibb.
Geeky Classic Rock.
How are you? If you're new here, my name is Kiki and I am literally obsessed with classic rock, pop, and nostalgia. I love it. I love it a lot. So if you like it too, please consider hitting that subscribe button down below as well as the like button and of course the little teeny tiny notification ding dong bell. Guys, that bell is swell. And if you click it, you're gonna know every single time I upload a brand new video. Exciting! And if you're returning and coming back for more, I love you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Mwah! Andy Gibb. My gosh, I remember the day that he died. I was so sad about it. March 10th of 1988. He was born on March 5th of 1958. So he actually, ironically, died 5 days apart within the same month that he was born. Just kind of crazy. Andy was born Andrew Roy Gibb in Lancashire. Andy was the youngest of 5 kids, and we know 3 of his older brothers. Ding, ding, ding. Okay, who were 3 of his older brothers? Well, if you guessed Barry, Morris, and Robin, you are correct. Andy moved with his family to Australia when he was 6 months old. I mean, come on, it wasn't like he had a choice or anything. He was only a baby. And his mom called her baby boy a little monster, a little monkey, and a little devil, cause Andy was known to be a bit sneaky. Now, when Andy's mom thought that he was off at school, yeah, no, he was actually in the barn at his house, hanging out with his 2 horses. And come on, if that was the worst that would happen, well, Andy actually quit school when he was only 13 years old. Is that legal? Can kids do that now? I don't know. But when Andy quit school, he wasn't sitting around playing video games. You know why? Because they didn't exist yet. Surprise! Barry, Andy's older brother, and he's actually the only existing Bee Gee, gave his younger brother an acoustic guitar. So Andy went ahead and put his first group together, called it Melody Fair, which was a song written and released by the Bee Gees in 1969. And that song became a really big hit in Japan. So Andy probably said, you know what? I'm gonna call my band Melody Fair. Around 1975, Andy went ahead and joined another band called Zenta, and they weren't really unknowns because they were opening for bands like Sweet and the Bay City Rollers. Remember them? S-A-T-U-R-D-A-Y. In 1976, Andy got married to his high school sweetheart, Kim Reeder, and it wasn't a long marriage. Not at all. Lasted about 10 months. They got separated, but then eventually found out that Kim was pregnant with their daughter, and PETA was born on January 25th of 1978, and they got divorced later that year. Now, this is where things got really crazy for Andy. In a good way, but it ended up not being so good. In 1976, when the Bee Gees were really getting a foothold here in the United States and started getting really popular, they had moved to Miami to get a fresh start. So Andy decided, yeah, I'm gonna move there too. Remember, we're still here in 1976, and Barry helped his brother Andy produce his first solo album called Flowing Rivers. Fun fact, the Eagles had just finished up recording their uber successful and most well-known album, Hotel California, so Joe Walsh actually was on 2 of the tracks of Andy's album, Flowing Rivers. I totally did not know that. I love finding out new things. Take a guess at what the first single was to come off of Andy's album. I'll wait. Did you guess it? I'll sing a teeny tiny bit for you just to give you a little baby hint. For so long, you and me been finding each other for so long. Ah, you got it. The song is right there, but you just can't think of the name of it. I know what's happening. I'll tell you. The name of the song is I Just Want to Be Your Everything. Don't you just want to, I just want to be your everything. Just like how he sang it. Gosh, that song was great. It's still great. It was released in April of '77, and seriously, how could that song not be a hit? Andy was hot, and mama, he could sing. And he made you feel like he wanted you to be his everything. Did you feel that way when you heard that song? I did, but I'm just weird. This song was #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 for 3 weeks. Barry wrote it, and this is one of the songs that Joe Walsh played the guitar on. Love is Thicker Than Water also, of course, reached #1 status. Alongside his brothers, the Bee Gees were dominating like every single chart with their Saturday Night Fever soundtrack. So Andy and the Bee Gees had the world literally in the palms of their very pretty little hands. Barry had the best hair though. I mean, it was very coiffed. This was also, really a weird musical time for all of the brothers because Love is Thicker Than Water actually kicked Staying Alive out of the top spot. Then Love is Thicker Than Water got bumped out of its #1 spot by his brother's song, Night Fever. Was it awkward at that Thanksgiving table? I wouldn't have put my hot toddy down and walked away. Oh no, staying right with me. So remember, this was also at the height of Andy's career. His daughter Peta was born, so there really wasn't any bonding going on between father and daughter. We cannot forget about Andy's other amazing hits, Shadow Dancing and Everlasting Love and Don't Throw It All Away. These were all based around love. I mean, shadow dancing, though, really probably wasn't about love because you're dancing with your shadow. So you're dancing alone, so it's maybe about loneliness? I don't know. Come on. Andy loved love. And he was good at singing about love. And I loved it. Just a couple of years later, in '81, Andy released a greatest hits album with his record company, RSO. Remember them? They had the little cow logo, the little red cow. Remember them? Well, they released him from his contract due to his cocaine addiction. Even though Andy came out with a string of hits, he was uber successful, it would ultimately be his drug addiction that would bring him down. Andy was blacklisted by NBC after not showing up to do a special with Bob Hope. Can you imagine how mad Bob was when Andy didn't show up? I mean, Bob seemed like a super sweet guy, but I would not want to get Bob Hope mad. And then, remember the TV show Solid Gold? That was on Saturday nights. I loved that show. Dionne Warwick and comedian Marty Cohen were the first people to ever host Solid Gold. Then, after Dionne Warwick left, Andy Gibb and Marilyn McCoo, oh my gosh, remember her? They took over the co-host role alongside Wayland Flowers. He was the puppet guy who had Madam. Oh my gosh, funniest. Oh, that cracked me up. Andy also did a couple of stage plays, one of them being on Broadway, but he was let go from those as well due to the fact that he would just not show up a lot of the times. We have to chat about Andy's famous relationships with Olivia Newton-John, Marie Osmond, and of course, Victoria Principal. Andy and Olivia did an amazing duet together called I Can't Help It. You could check it out here on the amazing YouTube. I will post a link to it down below. Regarding Andy and Olivia's relationship, Andy actually asked Olivia out twice, but the first time she said no because Andy was dating her good friend Susan George, and at that time, Olivia was living with Susan, so that would have been wicked awkward. And time number 2, Olivia ended up saying, yes, I will go out with you. Not sure what Andy said to change Olivia's mind, but whatever he said, it worked. In the late 70s, Andy also dated Marie Osmond. I absolutely love her. You can check out my interview with her. Seriously, she is the best. Anywho, they dated for a really short amount of time. They met when he appeared on the Dottie and Marie show, another great show of the 70s. And the last straw actually was when Andy called Marie a whole bunch of times late one night, and she knew that he wasn't in his right state of mind. And as Marie politely put it, she knew that Andy was unwell. So she ended it with him then, and years later, he did let Marie know that at that time he was calling her to actually tell her he knew it was time for him to get his act together and go get clean. Victoria Principal, come on, you guys know her. She played Pamela Bonds Ewing on the hit TV show Dallas. And she also did commercials for Germac shampoo. Remember Germac shampoo? My hair was unmanageable. Now it has body, bounce, and shine.
Sure, it's Germac. Just look at my hair.
It was 1980 when Victoria Principal and Andy Gibb started dating. And Victoria said that they had a friendship. They just hit it off right away from the very moment that they met. And how they met was on the John Davidson show, and Andy had always wanted to meet Victoria. He thought she was absolutely gorgeous, and that is just so cute. Victoria was actually across the hall filming something for the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. So behind the scenes, they got it together and they got Victoria to come out and surprise Andy on the stage. And I guess what happened was, like, as soon as they met, because I couldn't find the clip anywhere, they started to not really make out, but they were kissing. Victoria was also 8 years older than Andy, so those cougars, they just had it down for Andy Gibb. It was like honey on a hot teen idol. Victoria and Andy recorded a duet together. It was a cover of the Everly Brothers' All I Have to Do Is Dream. It reached number 51 on the charts, and sadly, that was the last song that Andy had recorded and released before his death. Andy and Victoria would openly talk about marriage on talk shows, but they broke up in 82. It was a very short relationship. Didn't it feel like they were together a lot longer than that? But they were together only a year, and the reason they broke up, again, because of Andy's addiction. After the breakup, Andy did work in Vegas. He also worked on TV shows, a couple of them being Punky Brewster and Gimme a Break, and he did several live shows overseas. Andy finally and successfully completed rehab in 87, and he was on track to make a comeback. To everyone around him, Andy was seemingly getting better on the outside, but way too much damage had been done on the inside. And on March 10th of 1988, 5 days after his 30th birthday, he died of myocarditis, which is inflammation of the heart muscle. And Barry does openly say he regrets the tough love conversation that he did have with his brother before he passed. And this is something he will never ever forget. The short, meteoric life of Andy Gibb definitely ended way too soon. We do, of course, have his music, which you can listen to and watch him anytime on this incredible platform of YouTube. And we all have to be grateful for that. I mean, really, if you're having kind of a crummy day, go listen to an Andy Gibb song. It will cheer you right up, I promise. He just had a fabulous voice. Guys, stick around and check out one of these two videos coming up next. And in the comments down below, let me know who you would like to see me highlight next. Be kind to everyone around you. Be free. And most importantly, what keeps us all going and keeps us all happy, that's why we keep coming back here. Remember, guys, to always keep rocking.